What's up, guys? This is Ty Zen again, and with me we have the Honorable Grandmaster LeonFu.com, the great Oracle cryptocurrency, right? In this video series, guys, called Profit Potentials and Privacy Coins, we have 6 modules in this first half of the video series. In this second module, we're going to talk about the privacy coins 101. We're going to answer everything that you want to know about privacy coins, what they are, who's behind it, what technology is going on behind it, what's the differences between them, and who they're trying to, what they're trying to do. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So before we get started, we got to do the quick sponsorship disclaimer here. This video series has been sponsored by a privacy coin project to provide an independent third-party review of the major privacy coins projects currently active to educate the public about the importance of financial privacy. Okay, so before we get started on the privacy coins, it's important that if you're new to this world of cryptocurrencies, you need to understand what is a Bitcoin blockchain, and then once you understand that, then we'll transition into what is a privacy coin. So real quick here, I have a very, very good slide that's provided by Robert Palatnik. He's the Chief Technology Architect. This is actually one of the slides out of his presentation that I saw that has the best illustration of what a Bitcoin blockchain is and why it's so powerful and unique. And so I borrowed it from him to use here. If you guys want to learn more about it, it's at the dtcc.com videos. It's called the Embracing Disruption webinar by Robert, and then you can check it out for yourself. But in the past, the way that financial technology has evolved is that in the past, we would have one central location where everybody would come here and transact at that one central location, such as a bank or an institution or a government that would issue the currency. And then we evolved to where each of these users out here started their own centralized what we call a ledger. Okay, so a ledger is a accounting manual that logs in all the transactions between two parties or two people, or between a party and an individual, right? So in the past, that ledger was centralized in one place, and everybody had to come there and to settle and clear their transactions, right? So then later on, it evolved to where each of the companies and the businesses, as companies grow and as the economy grows, each company has their own ledger and where they record their financial transactions, and each government agency would record their own financial transactions. So for example, you might have one government agency here, like my son was born in Dallas County, so Dallas County has their ledger of when my son was born, and it keeps all the birth certificates, and if someone dies there in Dallas, they'll record it into their ledger so that it can be recorded there. And then at each bank, like Bank of America, Chase Bank, they'll have their own ledgers of all the transactions of all their customers. And then the government, the IRS, would have their own ledger of who pays their taxes and who doesn't. So that goes in there. Now, what makes Bitcoin and blockchain technology so unique is that it was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto, and he was the first one to create what's called a distributed ledger or a publicly distributed ledger that has an accurate accounting of every transaction that went on. So for example, if I send you a transaction, right, and it gets recorded on one of these ledgers, it also gets broadcasted out so that all the other ledgers in the decentralized and distributed network also has a copy of that transaction, okay? Now, what's unique about this and what's never been done before is that Satoshi Nakamoto solved a really big computer math problem, the double spending problem, right? So in the past, when someone tried to create an electronic cash or an electronic currency, the problem that prevented everybody from using it is that when one person sends the transaction to someone else, there was no way to tell if that person didn't copy and paste that same currency or that same bill and send it to someone else, right? So when Satoshi Nakamoto came along, he decided to take that ledger and distribute it and decentralize it to everyone so that every time someone makes a transaction, it gets broadcasted out to the entire network, and everyone has to have, there has to be a majority agreement that the transaction was correct, and that if I sent you 1 Bitcoin, that I indeed had 1 Bitcoin in my possession before I can send it to you, right? So every transaction can be traced back to where it came from, okay? Anything we need to add to that?
That's good.
Okay, so that was the original Bitcoin blockchain. It was the first time that we have a shared ledger that everyone can agree on and that cannot be erased and cannot be modified after it's been added to the ledger. Okay, so now let's go to the next slide. You want to talk about, you want the text in red are our notes for you guys to understand how to read the transactions inside the ledger. So the blue and the green and all that is all a real transaction inside the public ledger, and this is how it looks when you look inside the ledger. So you want to walk them through how this Bitcoin ledger?
Sure. So every it's called a blockchain because these transactions are organized into blocks. So every block starts off with what's known as a coin-based transaction. These are generated by a miner. What a coin-based transaction is newly created Bitcoins. These are Bitcoins that basically you could say just are generated are a reward for the miner who mined this block. And that's where all Bitcoins start off of. But every Bitcoin transaction, you can see, like, let's take this transaction.
Before you go into that, I just want to remind the audience something in case they're new to this.
Sure.
You know, so Leon used the term mining. Okay, if you're new to the world of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, the term mining simply means that the computers that were used to process all the Bitcoin transactions at this moment, it was all gathered together and put inside this block of data, and this block is number 456,018. So if you go to blockchain.info and you type in this blockchain block number, all this data will come up.
Yes.
Without our notes, of course.
Yeah. Sure. So what you see in the Bitcoin ledger is every transaction can be traced from one account to another account. So that in this case, this account now has 3.9 Bitcoins sent to it. Where did it come from? Where did these 3.9 Bitcoins come from? It came from here, this account number, right? And this account sent 3.91 Bitcoins to these two accounts. If you add these two numbers up, they total this number down here. So if you click on this account number, you can see all the transactions that account sent to.
So this is the incoming
This is the incoming account, and this is the outgoing. Similarly, if you want to see, hey, where did these 3.9 Bitcoin, where did this account get 3.91 Bitcoins come from? All you have to do is click on, this is called the Block Explorer, by the way. All you have to do is click on this, and then you can see which accounts sent this account 3.9 Bitcoins. And you can keep doing this all the way back to the block, to the day that the Bitcoin was mined, to this transaction. Eventually, if you keep going back far enough, you'll eventually hit a block where those Bitcoins, where they came out of.
And it'll go back and it'll say no inputs.
No inputs, newly generated coins.
And this newly generated coin, this 14 Bitcoins right here, was generated. The system automatically rewards the computer who process all these transactions. And in the world of Bitcoin, it's called mining. Just simply, that's just means to process all the transactions. And whoever processed all this got rewarded those 14 Bitcoins.
Yes.
So the system generated, and when it's a system generated, it's called a coin base, and it has no inputs.
Yes. In other words, these coins didn't come from anywhere. They were just created as a reward for the computer that processed those transactions. And really, in 2017, the block rewards are 12.5. The reason you see 14 here is because those are all the fees. Every transaction includes a fee for processing that transaction that's also given to the miners who processed it. So he gets the 12.5 Bitcoins that are newly generated. They came from nowhere, and then plus the fees for all the transaction fees that he processed in this block.
So right now, Bitcoins is at let's say it's close to $1,300. So that is over $15,000 worth of reward for this miner or this processor to process all those Bitcoin transactions in the last 10 minutes.
Sure.
Okay. And then you said that every transaction is public and visible, so it's right there.
So all of this, obviously this is just two transactions in a block.
Now, does someone need any special software, or do they need to pay to see this?
No. This is a website that you could go to. It's from blockchain.info. forgot to cite
Yeah.
them, but blockchain.info is where this screenshot came from. It's a website that you can go to. You can just click on any block number. We happen to click on this block number,
Which is the most current one.
which
at
just
the time
happened to
that
be
we
the
took.
most current one, but you can go click on any block number from block number 0 till now.
Now, is this only for people that's in America, or is that for anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world. This is on the open internet.
The-
And yes, and this is the problem. This is why Bitcoin does not have fungibility, because every single Bitcoin has its entire history publicly visible. And that is the problem these privacy projects are trying to solve. This destroys the fungibility of Bitcoin because if we don't know who these people are with
Because
these
it's all
account numbers,
represented by
because
a
all
bunch of-
represent these are just random numbers. These are random account numbers, but they are unique. If someone were to be able to track down, hey, this account number, if somehow I'm able to find out that's Tizen, right? Then I can go to Tizen and say, hey, Tizen, you were sent 3.9 Bitcoins.
Where did it come from?
Where did it come from? Where
Hey,
did you
let's
get it
just
from?
say that I don't want to tell you.
Well,
right?
if I have a gun to your head,
Then I will have to.
you'll have to tell me. Yes.
Okay. So because someone can threaten you,
Yes.
there's not 100% privacy here.
That's right.
So
That's right.
right. So basically, what you're saying is that the Bitcoin addresses are pseudonymous, right? Which it can use a fake name or a fake serial
Yeah,
number.
there's no identity.
right?
There's no name attached to these.
But the loss of privacy can occur if identities can be linked to any address. So as soon as somebody knows who that person is that owns this address or that account number, right? Then the privacy can
Be broken.
the law enforcement, the authorities, or someone else, an individual, can dig deeper or to find out
That's
who,
right.
where it came from, right?
That's right.
So you're saying that the Bitcoin mixers and the
HD
HD wallets are used to maintain privacy, but each has their own downsides, such as requiring trust, expensive.
Yes,
It's
yes.
expensive
and they're not
slow.
entirely foolproof either.
Okay,
Yes.
so let's dive a little bit deeper into this, Leon. Right? You always talk about fungibility, and I mean you've helped me understand fungibility. But what I think the person that best explained what fungibility is, we're gonna use Andreas Antonopoulos again, world famous Bitcoin evangelist, and he said that he defines fungibility the easiest way. He said that fungibility means that the money in my pocket is the same as the money in your pocket, which means that it doesn't matter if my money came from a legal or illegal source. It does not matter if it came from a rich person or a poor person. The Bitcoins that's in my possession, it has the exact same value and equality as the Bitcoins that's in your pocket.
Sure.
Right? And so like if I take a dollar bill, for example, the dollar bill that I have in my pocket
It's the same as the dollar bill in my
your pocket. And
Yes.
regardless if I robbed a bank and got that dollar bill, or if I got it from a drug dealer, I got it from a prostitute, or I've got it from illegal sources, when I walk into a grocery store, I can buy the same amount of food with the same as that you have.
dollar, yes.
Right? So throughout this whole theme of privacy coins, guys, the purpose of privacy coins is to solve this fungibility problem. And so we're going to keep coming back to it over and over again. And just remember that every time we say the term fungibility, it just means that the dollar in your pocket is the same as the dollar in my pocket. Right? So talk about what are privacy coins.
Yes. So privacy coins, all the privacy projects are trying to solve the fungibility problems that Bitcoin has, because it is so that every unit of the currency is identical to every other unit. Once again, Bitcoin is not entirely fungible because every Satoshi is the smallest unit of Bitcoin, is traceable back to the block that it was mined. So you can trace every Bitcoin to the day it came into existence. There's a complete history attached to all Bitcoins, and there will be forever. You can trace all the Bitcoins back to when Bitcoin started.
So I want to add this in case someone's new to the world of cryptocurrencies. So Satoshi is the original computer scientist that created Bitcoins and invented it, but nobody knows who he is. They don't know where he is or anything like that. They just know it's an anonymous person. And so in honor of Satoshi Nakamoto, the smallest unit in which you can send to anyone in the world of cryptocurrencies is called a Satoshi. That's 8 decimal places out. And so they named it after, the community named it after him.
Sure.
In honor of him.
Yeah. So because of that history, each Bitcoin or each unit of Bitcoin can be used for blacklisting and even censorship by miners. And this has actually been, this is not theoretical, this has actually been done.
So give us an example.
Like, for example, it happened where even if an exchange got hacked, and I don't remember which exchange, where they can see that, okay, the exchange can say, hey, my Bitcoins got stolen. And then they called up all the exchanges, say, don't accept any transactions from that.
So let's use an example of NXT. When they
sure,
got hacked for
sure.
50 million
NXTs, yes.
NXTs,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
So NXT is a new cryptocurrency that came out after Bitcoin was invented. It came out at the end of 2013. And when it was traded on one of the exchanges, someone had hacked it and took 50 million
from the exchange.
Yes. And it was sent to a different exchange.
And they blacklisted that
and
exchange.
And they tried to cash it out.
Yeah, they blacklisted that account.
Yeah, and so that the person that stole it could not
move the money.
Yeah. And also, we'll use another coin example. Remember with Ethereum?
Sure.
Right? When it was stolen, the DAO tokens were stolen during that whole fiasco. Well, a hacker hacked into the Ethereum network or into the DAO code and stole some of the coins. And when they tried to cash it out, there were people out there that were following it every step of the way.
Yes, and it was Poloniex, in fact, that had done some of that too.
Yeah, and also here's another example: is that when the FBI seized the Bitcoins from Silk Road, what they did was they were going to auction them off in 30,000 Bitcoin blocks. And when they did, when they had it there in storage, you can go onto the blockchain Explorer and see where those FBI seized Bitcoins were at from the Silk Road.
In fact, they were even labeled on blockchain.info.
Yes, and we've also had situations where the hackers would hack into a particular Bitcoin account, and there would be people in the Bitcoin community that would send a small transaction, like 1 or 2 Satoshis, towards that Bitcoin account, just so they can track it and monitor where it's going.
Sure. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So even Ethereum is the second most valuable cryptocurrency at the moment. Is including privacy features. They have a partnership by including zero-knowledge proofs developed from Zcash. So even Ethereum, which is a public ledger, just like Bitcoin, but it's programmable.
It's the second most popular.
And it's the second most. And they have plans of a partnership or Zcash being able to do smart contracts, or Ethereum, vice versa. Right now, there's a partnership between them. So privacy is widely recognized, even within the cryptocurrency community, as being extremely important.
Okay. Now, you want to make the first investment case for privacy coins here?
Yes. So we missed. We did it in 2016. We didn't have any of these cryptocurrencies. We didn't have any Moneros. We didn't have any Dashes. We didn't have any of the examples that we've listed, because we didn't understand the use case beyond buying drugs and evading taxes. That's really what I thought up until the middle of last year. That's all the case was just people buying drugs. So when Monero exploded in 2016, I started to think about this. I started to think about, hey, is this really just about drugs? And I realized after doing some more research into the space, because I had missed Monero, among others, that this is a lot more than just privacy. So it's a much bigher market than I had initially thought. And that's why we missed it. That we didn't have any positions in these cryptocurrencies. I will also say that the first use case of Bitcoin was buying drugs on Silk Road. That is the first.
And when you researched it and you came across that, why was that a game changer for you?
Well, because it was really like, if you look at what Bitcoin when it first appeared had no real use cases. It was an experiment. It was an idea that cryptographers basically mathematicians and academics.
Academic people.
Academic people.
But who were the first group of people to actually use it actively? That was
to
just
actually,
from
okay,
mainstream?
so the second group of people, so that was the first group of people, like these cryptographers and academics, just buying it to play around with it because it was a computer science problem.
Yeah.
But then the next, I would say after that, the next group of people to use it were these hardcore libertarians, you know, the people that are anti-Federal Reserve, the people that they may be Ron Paul crowds, right? The real hardcore libertarians. So they picked on it idea because this was actually honest money that couldn't be controlled by any central authority, and they're all against freedom, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're all about. But still, that's still a fringe group, right? These are still fringe groups of people. This is not, Bitcoin did not get to even $10 or $50 on just those groups of people because they're a minority of the population.
Yeah.
I will say the first mass use case was when Silk Road opened, and people wanted to buy drugs. Now, we're not going to make any judgment whether or not people should use drugs. Just the fact is, people use drugs.
That's what caused the growth.
Yeah, that's what caused the growth. People want to use drugs, and they've always had. I mean, for thousands of years. And so that is when Bitcoin actually went from being, I would say, an ideological, either from an academic reasons or political reasons, to actually, I actually need to buy this to get something I want or something I need.
Yeah.
All right. And I would argue that the first $1 or $2 billion, which is about the first $100 or $200 from zero, came from that reason. And why was Bitcoin used for that? Like, why didn't they take PayPal or Visa and MasterCard, right?
Yeah.
And it has to do with privacy.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the our point here isn't to say whether Silk Road was good or bad. The point here was the first use case was because of privacy. Bitcoin offered privacy. Now we know today that it's not really private because these transactions can be linked.
Yeah.
But back in 2011,
it was the most private.
it was the privatest thing you could get in. Was private enough of that time. But today we know that we're a lot more sophisticated, and we know that it's not really as private as it needs to be.
So I want to add this before we go to the next slide, right? I want to add this so that you guys understand this. Now, we just talked about the first use cases of Bitcoins was on Silk Road to buy drugs, and that's what raised it to $1 to $2 billion in market cap for Bitcoin. But there is no way that we are advocating that you invest into privacy coins or look to invest into privacy coins because of drugs, because there's things that we're going to talk about here coming up shortly that are way more valuable than drugs.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I said, it's the obvious use case. Or it still is today. People think of privacy and they think, oh, you want to buy drugs, right? And well, that's true, but it's a lot bigger than that.
So you want to go ahead and talk about the investment case number 2 for a privacy coin?
Sure.
Right.
So, drugs and taxes. They're just the obvious use cases for privacy. All right, these are just like why do you need privacy? Well, that's why that's the stigma right now, is because these are just the obvious use cases. It's very much the same as when the internet first came out. It was also
for email.
Obvious. Yeah, was the obvious one, and a lot of other nefarious things when the internet first came out. But we have to see beyond that. We have to see beyond what is obvious. As investors, you have to develop a sense
to see dry land through muddy waters.
Yes. You have to see beyond what is the obvious, right? So the value of privacy coins, it's much deeper than that, and we explained in the last video why. Because privacy is, and especially financial privacy in our case, it's the foundation of all of our other freedoms. It truly is, and our privacy is being attacked on all fronts. We have a war on cash where governments around the world are trying to turn us into a cashless society. And the reason for that is they want to trace all of our financial activity.
And the term that you always use is control.
Control, yes.
Yeah, because if they know where our where the financial decisions that we make are, then they can control what we do.
Yes. And India is a recent example where they banned most of their currency. I mean, most of their currency was 80%. I forgot the exact figure. The government just one day out of the blue said your money's not worth anything. Turn them all in.
Yeah.
The 500 euro note, the EU is trying to take out these large bills out of circulation. You can't walk around with more than $10,000. You certainly can't walk across a border with more than $10,000 without declaring it. If you go to any airport or any international border, there's a big sign there that says if you are carrying more than $10,000 in cash, you have to tell them about it, the border officials. And the governments around the world, they're trying to justify this as terrorism, tax evasion, money laundering, really as an excuse. I don't want to get into political arguments here, but this is actually, these are the facts. They're doing this right now. This comes at a cost of curtailing personal freedoms and transparency, right? This is pretty much as happening as we speak today.
Can you give an example about that? You mentioned WikiLeaks here.
Oh yeah, WikiLeaks. So WikiLeaks is a site where they report on government corruption.
It's a government watchdog.
It's a government
website.
watchdog. It's a news organization. Okay, they're entirely a news organization. What they do is they publish and protect whistleblowers, people that have worked in governments or have information about governments around the world of their wrongdoing, and they publish it. They leak. Hence the name WikiLeaks about that. And of course, governments don't like this, and they're trying to, cut off their funding sources because of the journalism that they're doing.
Which is accurate because they provide facts.
Yes.
They provide the evidence.
They
Not
provide the
necessarily
evidence.
facts, but they provide the evidence.
Yes.
That of what they claim.
Of what they claim. Yes.
The corruption or the bribery or the things that's going on wrong with the government.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was you're saying that the government wanted to shut them down and not expose the government of different countries.
Yes.
So they did that by cutting off the credit card payments.
Yes, that's one thing they did. They did was to cut off their ability to take credit cards. You certainly can't PayPal them or anything. Yeah, so that's an investment case. Is why these projects have the potential to be far more valuable than where they are right now.
Okay, so.
Then what is privacy worth? We're investors here. We're trying to make money. So what is this thing worth? Even if we just take the obvious use cases that people just want to buy drugs, okay, that alone is worth billions, perhaps trillions of dollars. And I say billions because we know Silk Road transacted billions of dollars. So even I didn't really even think that drugs were actually worth this much, but just drugs alone is worth. But what's more important, what's much more valuable is what is our freedom and our privacy worth. I don't have a number. I can't put a number to that. Like if you ask me, Leon, I don't know what is freedom and privacy worth. I don't know if I can put a billions or trillions or more than that. I don't know. But what I do know is that it's orders of magnitude greater than any of these projects put together, all of these projects that are put together. So the potential is there, and that's the investment case.
So basically you're saying that the investment case for looking at privacy coins is that it's worth many, many more times than what
we're talking about 10x, 20x, 30x. It's worth orders of magnitude more
thousands
than
of times.
Yeah, thousands of times more than what any of these projects are currently valued at.
Now, are you saying that because the drug market only targets a small population of the world, whereas freedom and privacy
is universal?
Everyone wants freedom.
So
and
a lot of people
privacy.
use drugs. Sure, a lot of people use illegal drugs, but I don't really know that many people who use illegal drugs. At least personally, I don't know anyone.
Well, let's put it this way. In Atlanta, we're broadcasting from Atlanta right now, and the Center for Disease Control is here in Atlanta, and they're the ones that, they are the ones who does all the research and know how many people die because of marijuana overdose, a heroin overdose, or a cocaine overdose. So they have all those stats here from the U.S. And I think that like a few years ago, the number of deaths in America that was caused by marijuana was like, I think it was like a few thousand.
Yeah, sure.
And compared to someone who dies of smoking cigarettes was like over 300,000.
Sure.
And at the time that I looked, it was like less than 5,000 for the people that died from marijuana smoking, right?
Sure.
So what I'm saying that for is that the number of people that are affected by drugs is very small compared to the number of people that's affected by freedom and privacy.
Sure.
So that's why you're saying that's a bigger market.
It's a much bigger market because that's something that we all care about. We all care about our freedoms. We all care about our personal privacy, and that's why the magnitude, going back to investments, that there's a huge potential here for any of these privacy projects if they succeed in their goals of bringing privacy to the masses. That is tens, hundreds of billions or more. I don't know.
There's no way.
There's no way I can put a number on that.
It's just worth
a lot more than what it is worth now.
For the drug market.
Yes.
Okay.
Just on drugs alone, right?
Okay. So going back to, let's touch again on the issue of fungibility. You said that the goal of privacy coins is to create fungibility, right? Yeah. And fungibility is achieved by obfuscating the transaction history of each coin.
Just like the dollar bill in my pocket doesn't have a history attached to it.
Yeah.
But the Bitcoins in my pocket does.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's just let the audience know that the term obfuscate means to make obscure, uncertain, unclear, or unintelligible. It does not mean to hide, because it means to hide has a negative connotation to it, and that's not what the purpose of the privacy coins are. It's just to make it uncertain, unclear, and unintelligible of where it came from and who sent it and who received it, right? So you mentioned right here that cash is fungible because there's no historical record of transactions.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So
so cash has better privacy properties than most of these cryptocurrencies do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you talk about Bitcoins are not entirely fungible because of its transaction history, because you can see who sent it, not who sent it, but what account it came from, and the quantity and the date and everything.
Yes.
Okay. So the problem is, how do we simultaneously obfuscate a coin's transaction history and prevent double spending at the same time? So how do we make it so that the transaction is unclear, unintelligible, and uncertain of where it came from, but at the same time prevent someone from copying and pasting that same currency and sending it to multiple people and cause the issue of double spending?
Because Bitcoin has a transparent ledger so that everyone can see that you actually had the money. Everything balances out, and that's why it's completely transparent, so that there's accurate accounting for all the Bitcoins in existence.
Okay, so each privacy coin has a different method to obfuscate the transaction history, right? So let's have you talk about that, right? In the world of cryptocurrencies, before you talk about that, in the world of cryptocurrencies, guys, it's split up into separate buckets. Here's an example of 3 buckets, right? For example, the first bucket is the currency bucket, which includes cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, which was the original one that was created. And then there's other cryptocurrencies such as Litecoin, Dogecoin, and Tether. We have another bucket that cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum, MadeSafe, Storage, and Golem fall in. They're in what we call the distributed computing bucket. And then we have the privacy coin bucket, which includes such as Dash, Shadow Cash, Monero, Komodo, Bullberry, and Zcash, right? So we're gonna zoom in on just the privacy coin bucket just for now, right? So you said that the privacy coin bucket is segmented into 3 major sub-buckets, right? So the sub-buckets are buckets within a bucket, right? So talk about those 3.
So these 3 are how do each of these projects achieve fungibility? How do each of these projects protect your privacy? And in 2017, all the projects use one of these 3 methods: coin mixing, and we're going to go over each one of them; ring signatures, and a brand new kid on the block called ZK Snarks.
Okay,
yes.
so let's go into detail.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the first technology that's used to create privacy and fungibility with these privacy coins. Talk about the coin mixing.
Yeah, so mixing was the first way to help maintain fungibility and help protect your privacy. It can be used with any cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin and any other ones, this technique. Basically, all it means that you send your coins to who we call a mixer, a cement mixer right here. All right. So you send your money into this mixer, and it spins around and it spits back out the same amount of money back to you. So you basically send it some coins and you get back some other coins.
The same quantity.
The same quantity of some other random coins.
Okay.
So that's what the mixer is actually doing is it receives coins from many users and randomly sends back the same amount of coins back to the original user. So you're getting somebody else's coins, you don't know who, and really if the mixer's doing the job, no one else knows who either because it all went to him and then he just sent it all back out. So this can be used, like we said, this can be used with any crypto, but there's some cryptos such as Dash that they have mixers that are built into the coin itself, and these mixers are known as master nodes.
So in other words, you don't have to go outside of their network to get your coins
mixed.
mixed.
The mixers are built in their network. It's a native feature of the coin itself. Rather, say in Bitcoin, you may have to go to a third party. You may have to go to a different project that to achieve those.
Okay. So, what are some of the advantages that you see in coin mixing?
Well, it was the most it was the most obvious.
Yeah.
So that's why it was the first, because this was the most obvious way to help create some privacy by basically everyone, let's all put our money into a pot and just randomly grab it back out. Shake it up and send it back out. No one knows who got whose coins.
Okay.
And so it's very common. Like if you said that, hey, you need to mix you need some privacy, you're afraid of your transactions being traced, even up to today, this is the simplest way to do it, is just to send your coins to a mixer.
Now, I want to add that the mixer, even though we have a picture of a cement mixing truck here, the process is actually done by computer software. Okay, so I don't want people to think that we actually dump a bunch of coins or tokens or dollar bills inside a cement truck and actually run it through. Okay, so what are some of the disadvantages of coin mixing?
So this was a very easy way to, it's like the most obvious way to do it, but there's several problems of this method. First of all, it's not trustless. You have to trust first the mixer not to steal your money, because you're actually giving him or her your money and hoping that he gives you back the same amount of money.
that's tough to do. But if I have to mix up 100 Bitcoins, that's really hard for me to send $100,000 worth to somebody else I don't know.
That's right. So that's one big problem. The second problem is the mixer knows that he got your Bitcoins, and not only that, he also knows whose Bitcoins he sent back to you.
Yeah.
Right? Because he actually is the one sending. When you say, all right, here's some coins, he knows it came from you. And he also knows where you asked him to send it to. Okay. Right? So so
at least one person knows the details of the transaction.
Right? Okay. So it's trusted. So now they claim, and their reputation is as if that's their business, is to mix coins. It's a trust-based business. It's
so we're relying on them to delete that information after they finish a transaction.
That's right. We're relying on them not to keep logs or to destroy their logs once the transaction is complete. The second disadvantage is it costs money to do this. This isn't free. You got to pay somebody to mix your coins. There's generally a fee. Typically, it's 0.5%, somewhere around there. Could be more, could be less. But there is a fee to do this.
So now talk about why it's slow. What causes it? When I send you a transaction?
So there's a few reasons to be slow, right? A lot of time, it's also not instantaneous. It's not like I need to mix some coins, I send them and they're mixed. It's generally, it takes a while after I send my Bitcoins or any other coins. The first problem is if I have a large amount, the mixer may not have enough coins to give me back. Right? So
let's say Satoshi Nakamoto, the original inventor, if he decides to move his 1,000,000 Bitcoins, let's say he wants
There's
to
nowhere
move.
he can mix it. Yeah.
Yeah, let's say he wants to move 1,000 bitcoins. He wants to send
Yeah.
you 1,000 bitcoins and me 1,000
Yeah.
bitcoins for doing such a great
So
job.
so
Of this, right? How would he mix that up so people doesn't
I
know
don't
that
think
it came from
I
him?
don't think there's a practice because he owns so much.
Yeah.
In fact, most of the mixers that I know about, they don't really have more than like 1,000 bitcoins in their inventory
Yeah.
to available for mixing. So there's one that's one problem, right? Sometimes mixing one round is not enough. Dash has this idea where there's this little setting where you have to send it to several mixers. You got to mix it and then mix it again to help maintain your privacy because there's some very clever people who are still able to trace. Take them a lot of effort, but if they really wanted to, they could. So oftentimes you need several rounds of mixing. Now, a third reason that I just thought of that we didn't put on this slide is you might want to put that delay in yourself so nobody can track that transaction. Because if I sent 1.52 bitcoins into this mixer and immediately the exact same amount came out,
Yeah.
it doesn't take a genius to figure out that those are probably the same
Okay.
transaction,
So
right?
A purposeful
so
delay.
you may purposefully delay, ask the mixer to, hey, wait several days or several hours, several days, several weeks even,
Yeah.
before you send it back to me because I don't want it to be obvious that if that much went in and immediately that much came out,
Yeah.
then pretty much people can say, yeah, those are the same person.
Okay.
So that's coin mixing. So there's some more disadvantages here,
Yeah.
right? And these disadvantages, there's several, which is why all these privacy projects exist. It's not 100% private. It obfuscates the identities of the sender and receiver, but it doesn't actually obfuscate the transactions themselves. You see, the Bitcoin blockchain is still a public blockchain at the end of the day. And it's like we had mentioned before, it's centralized and not, the mixer still knows, so therefore it's not trustless.
Okay. So you still have to rely on a human being to make sure they do their job
That's right.
and do it correctly.
That's right. It's not completely by software.
Okay. So talk about a couple of the mixing services that you looked
mixing
at.
services, some of these projects are trying to solve some of the problems that we just mentioned here, right? And two popular projects that are working with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is still by far the most valuable, most widely used. So people still want to try to solve this problem with Bitcoin, and they're trying to improve upon the model of there's a central mixer that everyone sends their money to, and you hope that he sends it back out. One service is called CoinJoin. CoinJoin is a service where you find, if you want to make a payment, you find someone else to make a payment with you. Let's say you and I want to pay somebody some Bitcoins.
Okay.
And I want to send 2 Bitcoins and you want to send 5 Bitcoins.
Yeah.
So there's 7 Bitcoins out there, right?
Yeah.
And I want to send it to Bob and you want to send it to Alice,
Yeah.
right? And so we take our 7 Bitcoins, put them together, and in those 7 Bitcoins, 2 of them go to Alice and 5 of them go to Bob, or vice versa, right?
Okay.
So it's not clear to anyone, that's what's on the blockchain, that's what everyone sees.
Yeah.
But they can't entirely say who did Leon pay Bob or did Ty pay Bob?
Or did one person pay both?
Or did one person pay both,
Yeah.
right? Or
Okay.
right? So it's once again though, it's not completely private.
Yeah.
But it's better
Yeah.
than what it was,
Okay.
right?
And then talk about Tumblebit.
So Tumblebit is a relatively new, another notable project that's also trying to work with Bitcoin, where it's in a way where they're using transaction contracts where everyone sends their money into, and this is quite complex, which is why I have a link here so that you can go research for more information.
Yeah.
But it's a way where people send their Bitcoins into a pool of Bitcoins, and then there's these secret puzzles that you pass along back and forth to each other that unlock the Bitcoins from that pool. So it's trustless because it's a mathematical,
It's based on math.
it's
and
based
not
on
humans.
math, and where you need kind of a puzzle or a key to unlock those Bitcoins to get them out of the pool.
Okay.
And so therefore no one can really steal the money. And so it's a way, a trustless way help mix Bitcoins, but it's in its early stages currently. I'm not sure if you can actually use it. I think that it might only be in a test phase, but it's another idea of how to reduce some of the disadvantage of coin mixing that we have.
So that's a lot of information on the mixing. Let's transition into the ring signatures, which is another type of technology that's used to make the privacy coins fungible and hide or obfuscate the transactions, right?
Yes.
And this one you say is called ring signatures.
It's called ring signatures.
Okay.
Yes, these are a technology called ring signatures. In cryptography, what is a ring signature? A ring signature is basically a group of people have a bunch of keys, and there's a signature that is valid that you can mathematically prove it was one of those people that signed that transaction, but you can't prove who actually signed it. It could have been me, you, or someone else in that group.
It could have been Taylor Swift,
it could have been Taylor Swift
Justin
or
Bieber.
Justin Bieber, right? We don't actually know who. So it creates plausible deniability.
Okay.
That's the basic idea, and it was this way of using ring signatures was published in a white paper called CryptoNote, right? Who published a white paper documenting the idea. And they even, if you go to CryptoNote's website, they even had a proof of concept to demonstrate that this idea worked. Okay. And then but they never actually made a coin called CryptoNote, right? It was more of what they released was a proof of concept or a prototype demonstrating that this white paper could actually be done. So Bitcoin was the first to actually implement a cryptocurrency off the innovations that CryptoNote developed.
Okay,
right?
and Bitcoin, just a reminder, guys, was the privacy coin that went up to like 300%.
Yes.
It was the smallest performing, smallest gainer in 2016 among the privacy coins.
So using a CryptoNote method, what you see is a bunch on its blockchain, a bunch of transactions where you can't be entirely sure which account paid which account. Every transaction has plausible deniability. Even though the details of each transaction are there, we can't really trace it like I showed you with Bitcoin, where you could just click on the account numbers and just keep going all the way back. You can't do that with CryptoNote or cryptocurrencies based on the CryptoNote white paper.
Okay.
So Bitcoin was the first to come out with a cryptocurrency based on this technology. So how is this happening, right? We're protecting the sender's privacy by taking a bunch of other outputs and signing a transaction so that there's no way to know exactly who sent that transaction. Now there's a group that one of these accounts signed that transaction. Yeah. But you can't say who.
You can only narrow it down to that group of people or that group of accounts,
but
not which individual account.
Which individual account, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You said that new public keys are generated for each receiver and sender, but only the receiver can recover the private keys to send?
Yes. So that's the key to this is the public keys are generated for each transaction. Yeah. So a bunch of outputs are joined together so that you can't quite say who sent it. But the receiver, the person getting the money, knows who sent it.
Okay.
Right? So he's able to pull out the private key, okay, to then send his coins, because obviously he received it, he needs to be able to send it, right?
Okay.
So that's the only person who knows who was a real sender.
Yeah, among that
group of accounts is the person receiving the money.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. And that's how he's able to resend it again.
Resend it again. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So this makes it that anybody else who doesn't have the private keys to that send key, everyone else, there's plausible deniability. You can always say that it wasn't me.
So
it might have been me, but it wasn't me.
Let's just say that I'm part of that group, and I send you a transaction,
yes,
and you're the only one that has the private key to resend it to someone else.
Sure.
Right? is it possible for you to come back and say that it was me who sent
Of
it
course
to
it
you?
is, because I know who sent it to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
but let's just say that I deny it because I'm part of that group.
Sure, you can. You can deny
So
it, yeah.
so that means that there's no way that you can 100% prove that it was me. Then.
But you have the private key.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
To send it.
So it can
again.
be done then.
It can be done, but remember what the point of this is. He knows that anyway, right? If even with cash, if I pay you cash, you know it was me.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
if you can say it was me.
Yeah.
But you can't. I mean, you might be in this case. You might be able to prove because you could sign a transaction, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it's what remember what the privacy projects they're trying to do is to prevent third parties from coming in
Between two
people.
Okay.
All right. So after Bitcoin, there's a bit of drama behind that, which is about Bitcoin. But there were many forks or variants of Bitcoin after Bitcoin came out. And the most popular one today is now Monero, which is, I think, the fourth largest, I think, at the moment, the most valuable cryptocurrency. So Monero has taken hold as on one of the dark nets. The reason for that is you can actually buy drugs on Alphabay and other darknet markets. But there's dozens of other forks of Bitcoin. Bullberry is well known. And they all have their features and technical changes and different proof of work messaging features that they have.
Okay,
yeah.
So I want to interject here and mention this. This is very notable, guys, that Monero is pretty much a fork or a rebrand or a remarketing of Bitcoin. If you watch the previous video, you'll hear me talk about that, and I'm going to bring it up again here because it's very important, because later on we're going to talk about some other coins that are attempting to rebrand and remarket themselves. And I want you guys to pay attention to, if you haven't seen the previous video, go back and watch the first Module 1 video and see the explosion in price in Monero once they rebranded themselves, right? So that is one of the clues that you look for in a privacy coin project to see if they're able to adapt to the markets and remarket and rebrand themselves.
Sure.
Right. So let's talk about the advantages of ring signatures.
Okay, so you don't need these mixers. You don't need people or entities that we trust to not steal your money, to not reveal your identity. There's none of that needed. There's no master nodes, which is such as in Dash, where there's trusted parties on the network, although that's still built in. It becomes trustless, and and because it's trustless, there's also no single point of failure.
So with the coin mixing services, if their company goes out of business or their servers get taken down or they crash or they get hacked, then you can lose your money.
Yes.
But you're saying that with the ring signatures, the technology is already built into the network.
It's built into the protocol itself.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's no worry about some company going out of business.
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
And unlike projects such as CoinJoin, you don't have to go find somebody to come join a transaction with you. I don't have to find a willing participant. Hey, Ty, you want to send some Bitcoins with me? You don't need to do that.
I may not be interested.
I may not be interested, right?
Okay.
So that's the advantages of the ring signatures.
Okay. So talk about some of the disadvantages of the ring signature technology.
Yeah. So it is not 100% private. It's not clear who the identities were, but details of the transactions are still visible as to when they were sent.
So basically, if I sent you a transaction using Monero, if I send you a Monero coin, right, or a token, right, no one can see that I sent it to you and that you received it from me, but the date, the time, the quantity of the transaction.
And they can see you might have sent it to me.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's a ring, right? It's
Yeah.
You're part of that ring.
Okay.
So they can see you might have sent it to me.
And there's just no way for certain they can prove it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But it doesn't hide transactions. That's the thing. So, and even until the second point here, until the CT, confidential transactions, you could even see the amounts being moved.
Okay.
So that this is a brand new feature that they had to obfuscate the amounts, but up until January, you could even see the amounts being moved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's move on to the third technology that's used to create fungibility and create privacy in the privacy coins. It's called ZK Snarks, and we have a picture of a black box here with just a question mark on it. So does anyone know what this is?
Yes, people do know what it is,
Right.
but ZK Snarks is the new kid on the block, right? It's the idea of using very advanced cryptographic techniques to prove that there's no double spending, while at the same time hiding all the transaction details. So it's trying to mathematically prove that you didn't spend the same coin. You actually had the money to spend, while at the same time not telling anybody how much money you had, right? And so this is something called a zero knowledge proof. In mathematics, it's a way for one party to prove to another party that something is true, a statement is true, without revealing anything about the statement other than it's true. So it's basically using some math and mathematical magic. Is I can prove to you, Ty, that what I have in this black box, it's true.
Okay.
But I don't have to show you what it is.
Okay.
That's the magic, right? It's like it's in whatever's in this box, it's true.
Yeah.
But you don't know what it is, right?
And it's through math. It's not through human.
Yes, it is
trust.
through math. It is through math, and you could Wikipedia or Google zero knowledge proofs to have more details. It's a bit too technical for us to go over here.
So the ZK Snarks and its zero knowledge proof. So you're saying that it can obfuscate all the details of the transactions?
It is actually all the transactions are in this box.
Okay.
And it's
so
black.
Who is sending it? Who is receiving it?
How much is sent?
How much? What date? What time?
Yeah.
All that is hidden.
Of that is in this box here.
Okay.
Right? So that is the latest and greatest. It's been worked on for 2 years. It uses very advanced cryptography that I don't think more than a few dozen people even understand at this point.
Okay, and what are some of the coins that are based off of this technology?
So Zcash is by far the biggest project that is using this ZK Snarks technology. But of course, all of these software is open source. So there's many variants on that. Zcoin, Zclassic, and Komodo is one of them. Are basically taking the source code and building on top of the work done by Zcash.
Okay.
Yes.
So talk about the advantages of the ZK Snarks technology.
The purpose of ZK Snarks is to bring privacy to another level. Meaning to completely. This is not just obfuscation. This is just outright hiding. It's just a black box.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, other things like mixing and ring signatures, it's not really hiding. It's obfuscating. It's not making it unclear how the money is moving, but it doesn't really hide the fact that the money is moving. So this is really bringing privacy to a new level.
So basically, you were saying that let's say that we were in a court of law or something like that. The coin mixing and the ring signatures, right, will prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. But with the ZK Snarks, there is no doubt. You can't see it at all.
You can't see it at all. It's a black box.
Okay.
Black box.
So, so because of this black box technology here with the ZK Snarks, what's the disadvantages of it?
Okay, so it's not widely understood. The other two, coin mixing is very well understood. Even ring signatures is very well understood. But this is still magic to many of us.
Now this is the part that when I was doing research into this,
yes.
right? It talks about requiring a trusted initial setup.
Yes.
Now this is to talk about that for a minute.
Sure. So during the setup, there were these private keys that the Zcash team developers had to destroy, and they called these were like the private keys that were generated for its initial setup. And they actually refer to this as toxic waste. I'm not making that up. They made that up.
Okay.
And so they had this.
We made up buckets, but we didn't make up.
No, they made up toxic
waste.
waste. This was literally the term that they came up with, right?
Okay.
And so what they needed was this ceremony. And that's another term they use. This is almost like this very elaborate ceremony. I think they spent over $500,000 doing this. to make sure that this toxic waste, also known as shards, were destroyed. So it was this piece of data that if it were compromised would cause the entire system to basically collapse, because people could then counterfeit unlimited amounts of Zcash.
So everyone that's on the Zcash network is trusting that the original development team actually destroyed those the toxic waste or the shards that they claim they did.
Yes, yes, because the technology to do this first initial setup requires, I guess, some kind of private key that is like the magic key to print unlimited amounts of Zcash.
Because we have to require trust in these original developers that's doing this, right? The natural question that the audience will probably ask is, what is the incentive for them to not try to game the system? I mean, do they have enough financial incentive
yes,
to
they
where?
do. Yes, they do, which is what the next couple points are, right? Okay. It is backed by a corporation. It is the Zcash is backed by a central corporation, VC funded. They have lots of money that was put into it. If you go on their website, almost the entire community, all the major big players in the blockchain space has invested some amount of money into this corporation. They also have a scheme where they're mining, 20% of their mining rewards is being sent back to these developers. To fund them. So they definitely have an incentive.
So they have a lifetime of funding.
They have a lifetime from the mining, right? As long as these coins have value, they have a constant stream of income.
So that's their incentive right there to not try to game the system and cheat the system, because if they do, then they're going to lose that funding.
Yes, and people will lose faith in the currency, and it will not be worth much.
Now, you talk about that there's a potential, because you're a software engineer, you said that there could be a bug in the code.
Sure. So all of these coins, they don't hide the amount of coins that are on the chain. So people can add them up and make sure everything balances, and that there are the number of coins that they're supposed to be. With Zcash, we can't do that because everything is completely obfuscated. Everything is completely hidden, just like in this black box. So if someone found a bug, if somehow these toxic waste wasn't destroyed, they could start printing unlimited Zcash coins, and no one can know.
Because it's in a black box.
Because it's in a black box, no one knows, right? And this is important because this isn't just theoretical. This actually happened to a project that uses similar technology called Zcoin. Zcoin uses a very similar technology as ZK Snarks, but a difference in that project was that they didn't hide the amounts. The amounts were still public. So a hacker or someone found a bug in their code and started making new coins, and the community was able to pick that up to detect that counterfeiting was happening, and they were able to then track down the bug and fix the bug. Right? If something like that were to happen in Zcash, I don't think anyone would know until it was too late, until it was obvious there's way too many coins.
Because everything is so hidden.
Yes, everything is so hidden, yes. So there's some disadvantages.
Now, let's talk about some of the examples of the privacy coins in each sub-bucket so that the viewers know what are the privacy coins that fall under which bucket, right? So in the coin mixing bucket, you're saying that Dash and Nav coin use the coin mixing technology.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. They use mixing, but similar to like a Bitcoin mixer, but it's built into their coin.
It's not a third party.
It's not a third party. It's within themselves, right? It's not like a company that's mixing Bitcoins, or it's not like a Tumblebit or a CoinJoin project that is a separate project that's running.
Okay, so then in the ring signatures, right? Now, by the way, guys, I'm sure there's more than just two. Okay, just realize that there's more than two. We just chose the ones that have more liquidity, that have more volume,
more
or notable in the community already.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's not listed here, it's not because for any reason. It's not because we didn't want to. It's just because it's not very well known. So we're just looking at the ones that are known. Okay. So now in the ring signature sub bucket, we have Monero, we have Bullberry, we have Shadow Cash, and then we have I think it's
Bytecoin.
Bytecoin, yeah.
Bytecoin, the first one.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
right? And then in the ZK snarks, we have obviously the
Zcash,
Zcash, and then Komodo,
which is a fork of Zcash, and then there's also Zcoin. There's another fork called Zclassic. There's a bunch of these that are just variants of the same variants of Zcash, more or less.
Okay,
Yeah.
so those are the three major sub buckets inside the privacy coin bucket, and it's divided and categorized based on the technology they use to create fungibility and privacy within the privacy coin bucket, right? And in future videos, you'll go into detail about each of the major ones.
The big ones.
The
yeah.
big ones.
The big
that's
ones.
worth noting, and then we'll go from there.
Sure.
Right. So just to summarize this module here, guys, is that Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency invented by Satoshi Nakamoto. He invented the first publicly distributed blockchain public ledger, right? And then cryptocurrencies are divided into several different buckets depending upon what their objectives are. In this video series, we're focusing on the privacy coin bucket. And inside the privacy coin bucket, there's three sub-buckets based on their privacy coin privacy technology, which includes the coin mixing, the ring signatures, and the ZK snarks technology. And then we talked about the differences between the privacy coin technologies, and we understood why which privacy coin falls into which bucket in this video. And I'm gonna give you guys a quick teaser on what's coming up in the next video. In the upcoming video, we're gonna be talking about the overview and a closer look at each of the top privacy coins that we've been referencing. We'll focus in on detail about it, so you'll understand it in more detail. We'll talk about the people behind each privacy coin, the goal of each privacy coin, and who is each privacy coin trying to target. And as an investor, this is extremely important, because if you're targeting the wrong people, right, you're not gonna get the growth in your investment like you want. For example, like Bitcoin, who they were targeting was not very good. That's why they only came out with like 300% returns or growth in 2016. Meanwhile, Monero, which is a rebrand and a remarketing of Bitcoin, right? And it's a fork.
It's a fork of Bitcoin.
Right?
It's more accurate to say it's a fork.
Yeah, it's a fork, but they're trying to target a different group of people, right? So because of that, they targeted it correctly, and it ran up to over 3,000% profit in the year 2016. And then we'll talk about the notable privacy coins that are worth noting. They're not major privacy coins, but they are worth noting. Okay. So finally, we want to wrap this up with our sponsorship disclaimer. This video has been sponsored by a privacy coin project to provide an independent third-party review of the major privacy coin projects currently active to educate the public about the importance of financial privacy. So thanks for watching this video, and if you guys have any friends, family, or coworkers or colleagues that are interested in investing in cryptocurrencies, please share this video with them, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys in a future video.